I personally don't like calling every game I enjoy a masterpiece, and I think the word is used very loosely as of late. However, that doesn't mean there are no games that I would call masterpieces. So thinking of which games I would put in that category was fun to think about and put into words. While making this list of games I consider masterpieces, I put stipulations such as one game per series. That can't be more than one game from the same developer, while games from the same publisher is fine. And I'm not sure if I'll stick with this stipulation in future list videos, but games that are full of bugs and glitches on all platforms and those said issues still exist after patches, they can't be considered masterpieces. So don't expect any games from Bethesda. Now, of course this list is subjective. It's fine if you disagree or wonder why certain games were missing, which is why I plan on making this into a series that I upload once in a while. Also, when talking about these games, I'll explain why I hold them in such high regard, while providing some information in case anyone is unfamiliar with them. And lastly, the order of this list is not based on which games I like more over the other. So, with all that out the way, here are 10 games that I consider masterpieces. Number 10. Fable: The Lost Chapters. This game is what really got me into Western RPGs. Well, this and another game on this list, but it was really the original version of Fable, which I discovered one day when playing a demo disc from a game magazine. Anyway, in that particular demo disc, there was a dev diary video on Fable. Everything about it wowed me, and I knew it was a game I had to play one day. Fast forward a few months later, and I finally got Fable, and as expected, I got lost in the world of Albion. Everything from its fantastical, vibrant, yet dark world, quirky and mysterious characters, smooth combat, interesting story and lore, and charming music. All of it blew me away. Months after I finished Fable on several occasions, I was at GameStop one day with my uncle. I stumbled upon Fable: The Lost Chapters, and luckily it was at a low price, so I was able to get it. When I got home, I was once again lost in the world of Albion, with this time having noticeable new additions that made Fable: The Lost Chapters the definitive experience. And yes, this version is superior to the Anniversary Edition, aka the Unreal Engine Edition that screwed up the art style. In Fable, you could be a hero or a villain. You start off as a kid and end up as an old man, though there's ways to de-age a character, but what made this game so special was how meaningful your choices are, how they affect NPCs, how quests can be completed, how you can shape your character's physical appearance through your actions and the experience points you put towards strength, skill, and will. There's so much you can do. You can use expressions to interact with NPCs, eat certain foods that will change your appearance, get armor and weapons affiliated with different alignments, get hairstyles and tattoos, have a group of NPCs follow you, buy property, and get married. Characters such as Cereza, Whisper, Thunder, Maze, Briar Rose, and the Guildmaster helped carry the story to be so memorable. And of course, I can't forget about Jack of Blades. Not only is his design so badass, but as a character, this guy is a menace and is easily the best villain in the series. The original Fable overall was brimming with so much charm, and the Lost Chapters added another layer to it. Number 9. Saints Row 2. Here is arguably the best Saints Row game in the series, and in my opinion, one of the best open world crime games. Saints Row 2 is not simply a GTA clone, it's a game that stands out on its own. Saints Row 2 improved upon its predecessor with deeper combat and customization across the board. There's a lot of fighting styles to choose from and unlock. Melee and ranged weapons are satisfying to use, the different vehicles you can drive and personalize with customization, and creating a character can eat up so much of your time. And the same can be said about the different clothing you can buy and unlock. The story picks up after the events of Saints Row 1. Once you escape the prison, you have a ton of freedom and several main missions that intertwine. Furthermore, while there's definitely comedic moments, there are no shortage of dark moments as well. Not to mention scenes where your character and other characters such as Johnny Gat show how resilient and badass the Saints are. The city of Stillwater is full of personality. The NPCs roaming around are pretty dynamic, and there's plenty of interior locations to go into. Plenty of mini games to help earn money and gain respect. Not to mention, the radio stations have a variety of great songs. And if you want even more fun, there's cheat codes you can enable in the pause menu. All of this making Saints Row 2 a legendary game in the open world crime genre. Number 8. Eternal Sonata. A hidden gem during the 7th generation that blended JRPG mechanics with musical sessions as a gimmick that not only made sense from a narrative perspective, but it also helped the game stand out. Eternal Sonata is set in the dream world of real-life composer Frédéric Chopin, who is dying, but in his dream world, he's very much alive. Throughout the game, you'll learn about Frédéric through text and real-life photos of architecture. This kind of functions as intermissions after certain events occur in the game. The protagonists of Eternal Sonata are Frédéric, Polka, and Allegretto. You get enough time with all three characters before they come together. And of course there are other characters that join your party, all having their own motivations, with the common theme amongst the characters being something many of us think about, which I won't spoil. The atmosphere for Eternal Sonata is spectacular, and what made it better was the fixed camera perspective. It made me appreciate each new location. Though one downside to that was at times certain objects, such as ladders, were hard to see due to the camera perspective. Thus resulting in me spending way more time in an area than I would have liked. I mentioned before that the gimmick around music helped Eternal Sonata stand out, but so does its combat. What makes the combat system so unique is how light and shadows work. You see, you have separate sets of skills you can use and learn based on being in areas with light and areas that have shadows, and the same applies to enemies. For me, Eternal Sonata is very special and a game I wish had gotten more recognition. Its unique premise and combat system made the 50 or so hours go by fast, and its breathtaking world and colorful cast of characters left a lasting memory on me that made it one of my favorite JRPGs. Number 7. Onimusha 2. An amazing follow-up to Onimusha 1, with several improvements and new features. In Onimusha 2, you play as Jubei, who is out for revenge against Nobunaga, who destroyed his village. But before he can truly set out on his quest for revenge, he's called upon by his mother, who gives Jubei powers that he inherited from his lineage, since he's part of the Oni clan. With his powers, he can properly battle enemies, and with the Oni Gauntlet, he can absorb souls that grant Jubei power boost, new abilities, and level up. The weapons and abilities were really fun to mess around with, and made defeating bosses more rewarding, which reminds me of the final boss in the game that I won't spoil, but holy shit, that fight was so annoying. It literally gave me a headache and questioned what the fuck was Capcom smoking. I mean, I'm fine with a challenge, especially when it comes to a final boss, but that was ridiculous. I felt more relieved than accomplished when the credits rolled. Anyway, characters you meet on your journey play a factor in the game and can make your playthrough different than someone else's. You see, there's a bonding system that is managed through giving characters gifts, and certain gifts can greatly increase your bond, thus resulting in seeing them more often throughout the game, and this could also have a negative effect on characters as well. The music and environments really help set the tone. While early on in the game, things may not seem very dark and gritty at first, but as you progress, you'll traverse some brooding environments that are elevated further by the game having a fixed camera perspective. Yes, I love me some fixed cameras, can't you tell? I found Onimusha 2 to be very engaging and intense. The enemies, while menacing looking, also had personality to them, particularly the bosses, like Gogendantis for example. He was a son of a bitch, but a cool one at that. I like that a lot of the battles made me switch up my arsenal rather than stick with the same 2 or so weapons throughout the game. And of course the story was just as engaging. The game is worth playing for that as well. But stick with the original game and avoid the censored remaster. Number 6. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. This was the other game along with Fable 1 that really got me into Western RPGs, and you may be surprised to hear that I originally did not like this game, specifically the combat. I found it confusing and boring. I was introduced to KOTOR thanks to my older brother, who gave me, my brother, and sister his Xbox along with a few games, including some demo discs, because he had gotten a different Xbox and wanted to give us some games to play with it. The only games I remember that my older brother gave us was KOTOR and Halo, so after playing both games for a little while, none of them hooked me, but for some reason I went back to give KOTOR another chance, and I'm glad I did. This time it hooked me. I had a better grasp of what type of game I was playing, and mind you, I played KOTOR before ever finding out about Fable. Now, I was already a Star Wars fan before this game, though not a hardcore fan by any means, so certain things in KOTOR were familiar, but the RPG mechanics in the game was foreign to me. But I didn't let that stop me from soaking hours in the game and getting invested in the mechanics, characters, and story. And what a story it was. Without spoiling anything, this game has a lot of twists and turns, one of which I didn't see coming. So the story sees your created character waking up on a Republic ship that's under attack from the Sith. Once you escape and land on the planet Terrace, that's where you really start to get the feel of how the game plays, and it's all very intriguing, thanks in part to the incredible writing and great voice work. I mean really, the characters are so memorable and worth getting to know. As you progress, you'll go to several planets, deal with conflicts related to the main quest, or one of many side quests that are just as interesting as the main quest. Combat opens up more, especially when you become a Jedi, which to me was awesome having to go through the trials and seeing your character get his or hers first lightsaber. Choices in KOTOR hold weight and impact the story. Party members will react differently to your choices, to the point where some may leave your party, and your physical appearance changes based on how far you are in the light or dark side. After 2 playthroughs of KOTOR experiencing the light and dark side paths, it made me appreciate RPGs, especially choice-driven ones, not just in terms of dialogue, but where I spend points on stats and abilities for my character, and it made me appreciate a different kind of combat, one I wasn't accustomed to, and all of this launched my interest in Western RPGs thanks to KOTOR. Number 5. Shenmue. I got into the series very late with the HD collection that came out years ago, but I was aware of the Shenmue series way before then. Unfortunately, I never owned the Dreamcast to play the original even if I wanted to, and when I had an OG Xbox, I didn't know of the series just yet, at least not by name. Despite the game originally starting out as a Virtua Fighter RPG with moves and sound effects taken from the Virtua Fighter games, I wouldn't call Shenmue a traditional RPG though. It's more in line with a 3D beat 'em up mixed with a life sim. I say that because you basically have a schedule that allows you to progress within the game until it's time to go to sleep. There's a day and night cycle, certain quests can only be done at a certain time, and other quests have characters tell you to return to them the next day by a certain time as well. And random events can occur depending on where you are and the time of day. It's all very impressive and innovative for a game that originally released in 1999. Anyway, you play as Ryo Hazuki, who seeks revenge after witnessing the death of his father from a man named Landi. None of this is a spoiler by the way, since this all occurs right at the beginning. However, Ryo's quest for revenge is not that simple though. He has to find leads to Landi's whereabouts and become a better fighter if he plans on standing a chance against him. A lot of the progression in Shenmue felt like a mix between a kung fu movie and an investigation drama, something I wish more games were like, because the combat encounters, interactions with characters, and roaming around the semi-open world of Yokosuka, Japan kept me engaged from beginning to end. During Ryo's journey, he discovers more about Landi's motivations, while also discovering something that he must find that his father kept hidden that makes the story of Shenmue way more than a simple revenge plot. And while the voice acting is unintentionally hilarious, and there's some busy work in order to make money and move the plot forward, it had a charm to it, and that's what made Shenmue stand out even to this day. And it makes sense why the series has such a passionate fan base. The game is that good. Number 4. Final Fantasy IX. For me, this is my favorite Final Fantasy, at least from the ones that I've played. Final Fantasy IX has a somewhat coming-of-age story. I say somewhat because characters don't literally age within the course of the game, so I don't mean it in that sense, but rather how characters develop throughout the game. The main character, Zidane, is part of a group of thieves who are tasked to kidnap Princess Garnet. What starts off as an easy job becomes complex due to Zidane and Garnet constantly getting separated and revelations about characters that keeps the plot going. Early on, Zidane becomes mesmerized by Garnet, but she has her own reasons for wanting to be free from her mother and away from her home. Though, over the course of the game, characters get fleshed out with great character development that I will not spoil. Whether separated or together in a party, Zidane meets other characters such as Vivi, a black mage who wants to be normal, and Freya, a rat knight who is searching for her lost love. And there's Steiner, who is Garnet's personal protector that was entrusted to bring her back home. But Garnet, along with sequences of events, don't make that so easy for him. There's other characters that join your party that are just as interesting. Another thing that's interesting is the combat. Characters have their own set of abilities that make them unique and useful in certain battles, like Garnet being able to summon Eidolons and Vivi being able to use black magic. Characters can also go through a trance, which builds up in a meter based on getting attacked in battle. When in trance, you'll have access to different abilities, but the downside is that trance activates automatically, so you can't save it for boss fights and can unintentionally waste it at the end of a regular battle. You can learn new abilities from leveling up accessories. Once unlocked, you can assign abilities to a character, but you can't assign all your unlocked abilities since they require magic stones to be equipped. Weapons can be synthesized as well to make better weapons that can prove useful, so it's important to take advantage of that feature and get the hang of it once the option to synthesize weapons becomes available. During your journey, you'll come across tons of locations that have that classic medieval fantasy aesthetic, with bustling towns, large castles, industrial laboratories, and grassy villages, including some unexpected areas that made certain surprising twists in the story even more impactful. Not to mention some charismatic villains that played a pivotal role in the story. Final Fantasy IX wasn't simply an homage to the early entries in the series. It was a legendary JRPG that had a great cast of characters and a memorable story. I hope Square Enix never remakes this game, because they'll ruin it like the Final Fantasy VII remakes. Number 3. Assassin's Creed. The first one was to become a juggernaut of a franchise. Sadly, it didn't take very long for it to significantly drop in quality, but nonetheless, Assassin's Creed 1 was revolutionary at the time, and is still impressive to this day, especially if you were around when it released in 2007. In Assassin's Creed, you technically play as two characters. Desmond in the current day, who's at an Abstergo laboratory after being kidnapped and forced to use the Animus to relive events from his ancestors in order to help the Templars. And the other character being Altair, the ancestor you play as in 1191 during the Third Crusade in the Holy Land. And while Altair is Middle Eastern, he is however an atheist, and is seen as an outsider compared to the rest of his assassin brothers in Masyaf. The setting is extraordinary. All of the several regions have a distinct look and feel to them, thanks to the different filters and music that are used to convey the tone Ubisoft was aiming for. The atmosphere looks cold and eerie, while the music has an ominous sound that makes even the calmer tracks unnerving. In combat, you can counter enemies' attacks with the correct timing, you can grab enemies and throw them towards other enemies or at certain environmental objects. There's other ways to deal with enemies, such as throwing knives and of course the hidden blade. While it can be used in combat, it can only be used as a counter move that instantly kills enemies. So using the longsword for combat encounters is the main way to deal with enemies head on. But the real best course of action is stealth, which never gets old. The animations for combat are impressive and still look good. The same goes for movement and the parkour. Despite originally being a spin-off to the Prince of Persia series, the climbing and platforming are very much so unique and gave Assassin's Creed its own identity. During the game, Altair will rank up as an assassin, because at the start he is stripped of his rank of Master Assassin to Novice after failing to kill his target, which resulted in the death of an assassin. The leader of the assassins, Al-Malim, tasked Altair to eliminate 9 targets in order to regain his rank. Not everything is as what it may seem as the story unfolds, making this more than just assassins versus Templars, and when shortly playing as Desmond, you uncover more about the story as well. As for the mission structure goes, Yes, it can be repetitive, however, I didn't find them boring, just lacking in variety. Even the lack of things to find in the large hub areas didn't bother me. Climbing viewpoints to synchronize the maps were fun, so was finding flags to collect and Templar knights to fight, or even eavesdropping on conversations and missions by sitting on benches from a distance. While there wasn't a shit ton of things to collect or much variety in missions, I acknowledge this was the first game in the series, and regardless of that, most of those things don't necessarily make AC1 bad. After all, with AC2, the series started to fill the maps with things to collect and progressively gotten worse when it comes to that, whereas AC1 didn't turn the game into a collectathon with huge maps that expects you to dedicate half your life to. I know there's people that have an issue with Altair and Desmond. Quickly I'll say I like Desmond as a character and didn't find his short gameplay sections boring. They were interesting for what they were and served the plot. As for Altair, to me he is not a boring character. He doesn't have to be a wisecracking ladies man that has long conversations with every character in order to be interesting or memorable. Altair is very direct and can be cold in his approach. Him being an outsider makes the player relate to him, especially with this being the first game in the series. Furthermore, in AC1, Altair has a mystique to him. He doesn't remove his hood throughout the game, we don't learn of his past, there's no love interest he stumbles upon, there's no small talk with characters. Instead, he's somewhat shelled up and concentrated on the task at hand involving his creed, since that's what he devoted most of his life to. And to me, he's a better character for that, and this further makes AC1 stand out. Number 2. Two Worlds 2. Here's an RPG that surprised me with how much I enjoyed it. Before its early 2011 release, I kept up with Two Worlds 2. I was even checking up on updates, trailers, and screenshots. It looked like an ambitious and immersive RPG, and I can honestly say, it most certainly was. There's a lot that Two Worlds 2 gets right, like the combat. You're not locked to one class. You can develop your character's stats and abilities, and if you don't like your build, then you can respect your build. Melee combat never got old. There's plenty of weapons you can buy or find, and moves you can pull off, with some triggering a cinematic camera angle. The magic is insanely deep. You can use magic cards to make and combine spells, all of which makes playing as a mage very rewarding. And I'm someone who doesn't typically care for mage builds, but Two Worlds 2 made it very appealing. Unfortunately, range combat is not as good as melee or magic. It's fine, but nothing exciting. As for the armor in the game, they're great. You can mix and match pieces of armor if you want, there's robes you can equip, and you can put a cape on your character. There's also character creation. It's not that deep, but there's enough selections to keep you occupied for a bit before actually starting the game. In terms of story, your character's sister Kira is kidnapped while you're imprisoned in the villainous Gandahar's castle, but luckily your character escapes via a portal thanks to two orcs named Darfa and Rogdar. From there, the game opens up and you set out on your quest to save your sister and grow stronger in order to face Gandahar. Along the way, you'll uncover secrets and meet different characters that will help you in your journey. Overall, I thought the main quest was interesting from start to finish, and the side quests were pretty good as well. Environments are amazing. Each area looks unique and several areas have different cultural architecture to them with music that complements each location. The scenery is awe-inspiring, especially the lighting and the water. To me, this game has one of the best open worlds in an RPG. Another great thing about this game is the music. It's incredible, and the game is worth playing for the music alone. It sets the mood for every location you traverse. The whole atmosphere in Two Worlds 2 is a treat to explore and get lost in. The things that this game does right is what I want more out of action RPGs, and it's why Two Worlds 2 is one of my favorite Western RPGs. Number 1. Remember Me. Donut's first game as a studio, and I'd go as far to say that this is their best game because just about everything else they released after this has been abysmal ideological slop. With Remember Me, you get a game that has some neat ideas that were executed well. Being able to go into someone's memories and alter them was pretty cool. And the story revolving around the concept of remixing memories that are stored away in order to reveal characters' secrets or get them to realize the truth was fascinating. As the memory hunter Nilin, you have to take down Memorize, an evil corporation that uses technology called Sensen, an implant on the back of people's necks that stores their memories, and with that, Memorize can control and manipulate people. They can also buy and trade people's memories too. And it's why the setting of 2084 Neo Paris is so dystopian. Despite being dystopian, Neo Paris looks great and fun to explore. Even though Remember Me is a linear game, nonetheless, going from point A to point B never felt dull. There's plenty of platforming sections that may feel familiar to the Uncharted games. There's also some puzzles to break up the fighting and platforming. I only wish the game wasn't so linear because there's a lot of lore that you can read and find collectibles. With the world being so fascinating, I wish there was just a little more to explore and discover. When it comes to fighting enemies, it's mainly hand-to-hand combat with special abilities you can use and a ranged weapon called a spammer. But the real interesting part about the combat system is that you can customize your combos by assigning different moves to the face buttons. As you progress in the game, you'll level up and unlock new moves. What's also cool is the dynamic music that plays based on how long you can keep your combos going in combat, similarly to how music works during combat in games such as Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance and DMC Devil May Cry. As for Nilin, she's an interesting character who is actually likable and designed well. Unlike characters Don't Not created in games after Remember Me, you learn more about her during the game. She's bold and determined, but has fears and moments of weakness. Nilin's goals are clear, but her past isn't, until you uncover the mysteries during your playthrough. And while many may have forgotten or not known of Remember Me, I didn't forget about it. I remembered. Well, that was my list of 10 games that I consider masterpieces. The first, but not the last, in a series I plan to do more of. I'm sure some of you heard or played some of these games, but if you haven't, then I highly recommend them. Maybe a few of them will be a masterpiece to you, like they are to me.